I don't have enough time in the confines of the debate to address every single section that's in the, oh, and this was another thing that was weird about the track. You start on the front page and it was right side up, and then you turn it over and it's upside down. I will concentrate my time that I have on the evolution takes time we don't have, because there were 8 very quickie objections to evolution in here, and most of these don't really make any sense. I'll probably mention about the Grand Canyon here too. The first one we'll take a look at is one question that was brought up was, whoops, I guess I can do this right side up.
Thinking of changing.
Moon-Earth distance. The tract said the moon is too close to the Earth. It's receding at 4 centimeters per year. 1.37 billion years ago it would have been on the Earth's surface. I don't think so. Well, in reality, we'll do the arithmetic. 1.37 billion years times 4 centimeters a year is 5.48 billion centimeters. Divide by 2.54 to convert to inches, that's 2 billion inches. Divide by 12, we'll convert it to feet, and it's 180 million feet, round numbers. Divide that by 5,280 to make it miles, that's 34,000 miles. Well, okay, so the average distance of the moon is about 240,000 miles, minus around 34,000 miles, 206,000 miles. So that's where the moon was 1.37 billion years ago. So what's the problem? Well, the problem is that those who make statements involving elementary arithmetic need to go to the trouble of actually doing the arithmetic. Otherwise, they're likely to lead others into false teachings. Another question that came up in the tract was galaxy shapes. I think I've learned how this works now a little better. Tract said the galaxies must be young, or their high rate of spin would have made them fly apart by now. In fact, there is no known force that can keep a spiral arm intact for more than 2 revolutions. Reality. The Encyclopedia Britannica, edition 15, contains a lengthy article on galaxies. On page 831, they allude to this very problem, and they say the persistence of spiral structure, it states, the only way to resolve this difficulty is to show that spiral structure is a transient but continually renewed property. And this was plausibly done in 1963 and 64 by the US astronomer Chia Lin and colleagues at MIT. They showed mathematically that a uniform, thin, infinite large rotating disk is unstable and will form a density wave in the gaseous material. And the most likely form of this density wave is a 2-armed spiral. The wave will always be present, but will travel slowly through the galaxy. Since new, hot, massive, highly illuminated stars can form only where the dust and gas tend to collect, the spiral structure will always be outlined by successive generations of short-lived blue-white supergiant stars. That was 40 years ago, and some supplementary mechanisms have been suggested since. And this is another good example when outside writers fail to keep up with competent scientific literature. Largely what happens in anti-evolutionist writings is they simply rehash their same arguments over and over and over again. Those arguments get refuted, but then the anti-evolutionist just goes back to the first square here and does not deal with those refutations. In other words, a step behind. Incidentally, on the galaxies, one closely studied one showed a rotation time of about 20 million years near the center and 200 million years near the edges. Thus, in order to wind up to just one turn of a spiral, starting this and cranking around in the middle to one turn of a spiral, would take about 22 million years. So much for the 10,000 year notions one sometimes hears. It is also amusing that 20 million to 200 million years would be called a high rate of spin. Yeah, where'd my DNA section go here?
We're losing time.
Am I done?
Yeah.
Okay.
You had my attention.
You're not supposed to.
I will not start on a new point because I would have to just keep on going. So what I'll do is I'll discontinue now, and in my rebuttal I'll get to some of the other points.
Conclusion to your point right now.
That was it.
That was it for that point. I was going to start new one, so this is a good break point. Thanks.
Over time, and a lot of people have worked on it. However, this is the 21st century, and we've learned a great deal in the intervening years. In fact, we've come far enough that science, probably starting in the 60s, science as well as just the philosophy of the science of evolution, have been able to be challenged. Up until probably the 60s or 70s, you can make a very nice argument for evolution because of the things that you didn't know. MJ mentioned that it was not random versus non-random, but cause and effect. The statistical analysis that in the genetical theory of natural selection was about random and non-random mutations in the genome in order to produce new species. There is also cause and effect, but when it comes down to the genome, they haven't determined all the causes, all the effects. Obviously, radiation, ultraviolet light, there are chemicals that will cause mutation. The fact is, mutations do happen. The geologic column. Let's see. Geologic column is fascinating. This is what we're generally given. However, when Mount St. Helens exploded, they developed hundreds of feet or 130 feet. A lot of material was deposited very quickly and it formed into layers, some of them micro-thin layers. So it looks like it took millions of years to deposit, but in truth it was just a few hours. This is an overview where my first one represents this time period. This is everything that went before. One problem there is that what they call the Cambrian explosion, if evolution was correct, then you would have started here and increased your number of phyla. Instead, you had nothing, no evidence anyway, in the geologic column for a long time, and then everything exploded. You had almost everything represented right off the bat. These layers that are produced are really very straight, very even, easily discernible, and we're told that those took millions of years to develop. I'd like to know what was growing there. This one is the bottom of the ocean, but as you can see, worms in the bottom of the ocean or on dry land, plants with roots, burrowing animals, that sort of thing, they disturb these layers. In the Gulf Coast, one of the hurricanes that came in put down a number of layers, a couple of inches thick, but it was easily discernible up until about the 20th year. And at that point, there was so much biological activity that it completely obliterated those nice even lines that were originally created.